Hi, I'm Parker Miley,
I'm Tim Benjamin.
and this is the Rage Podcast, where today we're going to talk about something that I guess how we were describing Tim will know a lot more about. But first, we gotta address something. Why are we dressed like this today?
What? Don't I always dress like this? Yes, today I had professional obligations that required me to dress like an adult, and no one's less happy about it than me. So yes.
Professional obligations.
I feel like Parker's been showing me up the last two Rage episodes, so I had to step up my game today. So, yeah. And you already said that I'm going to be an expert on this topic, so, I better shine. Right?
I'm pretty sure he planned this whole thing today. I was the one who picked the topic, but
yeah.
Tim, I think, really was
That's right. I'm
resident expert.
I'm bringing the game, A game today, so.
All right. So, Tim.
Well, I'm an old man. I graduated from high school in 1993. I graduated from college in 1997, which means my developmental years were during the 1980s. Please don't judge. But, so I remember the big hair bands and the absolutely abysmally awful music from the 1980s. There were only two good songs from the 1980s. One of them was Purple Rain by Prince. I'm still trying to find the other one. But anyways, all right, having said all that, I grew up at a time when this idea of purity culture, which is what Parker brought to me today, was in its height. Now, purity culture at that time was about setting standards, about expectations, that they were all coming down on us, and involved in purity culture was things like sex, drugs, alcohol, it even come down to behavior and a lot of little things. And it was all about expectations about how we were supposed to act and what we were supposed to do. And look, let's be honest, it's the same argument that it's the same emphasis that parents have today. They want to keep their kids away from some of these negative influences, which, even my young protege here will say is a good idea, because there's a lot of stuff out there trying to hurt you, and purity culture was a response to some of that. Now, it came across, we'll say, a tad aggressively at times. But it was all about the idea of we understood as children of that time period. We understood that there were expectations that were upon us. My parents made it very clear to me, again, as every child who has parents should, that my parents had expectations of me. I didn't understand all of them at the time. Looking back, there's a few of them I still have questions about, but for the most part, most of those standards, I think, helped me become the person I am today. And honest to God, I couldn't be more thankful than what I am, that I came out of a culture where we were allowed to have expectations of kids. Because I grew up with standards, and I grew up with boundaries, and purity culture was a big part of that. Go ahead.
Okay, so now so Tim grew up with that being the normal.
Yes.
Okay, that culture as a whole, not just like even your parents, but like a community,
yes.
a world,
my pastor,
a nation.
My Sunday school teachers, my school teachers, my other parents I knew, or other adults I knew, absolutely.
But the people of that time, the adults of his time, were expecting every child to be in this format and kind of know the basic guidelines
and stay away from negative influences and not engage in destructive activity and those kind of things.
And so now that's how he was kind of raised throughout that time frame.
Yeah.
Now let's look at what I, as a younger person in the world, am now being told about what the aftermath of what he went through. Okay,
yes.
It's now that all of that stuff needs to be thrown out of the window because it was oppressive to all people in all in all ways of life. No one should be able to tell you this, no one should be able to tell you that, and expectations shouldn't be a thing anymore. They're more harmful than good to children like me and all the kids below me are being raised now in a world where expectations are no longer there. It's like just look at some news articles today, and you can realize that expectations have completely gone out the window, because I can say any crazy thing I want and get away with it.
Yeah, we did an episode like that just a few weeks ago, where we talked about UFOs and what that was all about. And hang on, we got a slight interruption here.
Special guest Fred.
Thanks, Fred. Just so you all know, the trash here in the lounge is empty. So, yeah, but one of the things that we run into a lot is that these ideas of standards as Parker has said, and I've seen it even over the 25 years I've been doing church work, seen that relax. You know, I can remember growing up, my pastor having expectations and things, and that was expected that he would.
Yeah.
Where today, and I'm not pointing fingers at anybody, but that's not the way it is anymore.
Now tell me this: your parents, okay, and I don't know if this is exactly how your family or childhood was raised,
Yeah.
but like your parents wouldn't be shocked if say you were doing something troublesome, okay, and the
Okay.
pastor caught you, all right?
Yeah.
Your parents, I'm assuming, wouldn't be shocked that the pastor either enforced something or maybe got rough on you or something.
Oh.
It wouldn't
It
be
wouldn't even be
shocking.
that. If they found out he knew, they'd probably be more mad at him for not doing something.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. That's the expectation.
So that was the expectation. You know,
Yeah.
you catch someone doing something that is
Yeah.
okay. And again, we're all talking about purity culture.
Yeah.
So anything impure,
Yeah.
sex, drug, alcohol, basic behavior, how
Screwing
you
around,
how
whatever,
you-
whatever it was.
how
Whatever,
you
whatever
handle
thing it was.
yourself
Yeah.
in public and society and so forth.
Yeah.
How you can be. It's all. I mean, for me, the basic word is how respectful can you be,
Yeah.
which is a dying word all
Yeah.
around.
Well, it's that's another word that we're changing the definition of what
Yeah.
it needs to be respectful.
Yeah.
But
But so
yeah.
now
that's another episode.
Now in society, Tim and in Sunday school teachers and so forth in just in the church, you gotta watch because it's kind of like a landmine if you were to dare say something to.
Oh,
a kid who's acting out.
I've had parents come in and say, "Why are you so hard on our kids?" Not here. That has not happened at St. Mary in Wayne Street. But I've had churches in the past where parents are like, "Well, we need to come in and meet. We need to loosen some of this up." And I'm like, "Okay," because any of you who know me know I'm not especially hard on people. It takes a lot to get me to that point. But it comes down to expectation. What can we reasonably expect? Now, purity culture, and as Parker articulated this very well, purity culture has some pretty high standards. But you know what? We felt like that's what was expected of us. And I really feel like that helped me to be responsible, helped me to think through my actions, helped me to draw the line between decisions and actions and consequences, which is a line that we don't draw nearly clear enough today. We are all about canceling consequences, and man, you can only do that for so long before you cause some serious damage and somebody gets hurt. And that's what purity culture did, is it helped us, if we violated some of those expectations, there would be consequences. Now the consequences wouldn't be shot out of a cannon or anything like that, but it would be my parents would say to me something to the effect of, "We expect better from you," and there may be some other consequences with that. But that was the conversation.
which is a rightful thing to say.
Yes.
Which is expectations
Yeah.
I almost now I'm trying to think of does the
Well,
problem
well,
lie?
Think of the other side of this. Suppose I was not living to a higher standard, and the response was, "No, we don't really expect better from you than that." No,
Yeah.
that's how it
No,
is.
yeah,
What
and then-
does that communicate to
And
me?
then the window opens to just do worse things.
Yeah, exactly.
But
Because instead of looking for where the ceiling is, now I'm looking for where the floor is.
and now purity culture, obviously, Tim stated high standards. That does not mean that everyone in Tim's generation was able to constantly. No one met the full standard. Okay.
I can attest to that. Yes.
No one met the full standard, but the premise of having it there was it was a standard to reach.
Yeah.
It was. I mean, I tried to refrain using the word goal just because I think a goal is something. I mean, it was a standard. It was. I mean, it was set there. It was how it should be.
Yeah.
Okay. And then, obviously, yes, people fell short. Everyone fell short in certain categories, but it was.
But when we fell short, though, then we had a conversation about what happened. It wasn't automatically excused. Because if you're automatically excused from violating the standard is entirely useless.
There's no reason to have it.
There's no reason to have it. It's useless. So, and again, it wasn't like one little thing, and it was like, well, blindfold him, give him a cigarette, put him in front of the firing squad. That's not how it was. But it was the idea that I knew that my teachers and my Sunday school teachers and my pastor and my parents and my coaches,
your neighbors, I mean,
my
everything,
neighbors,
yeah.
my friends' parents had expectations. If I was going to be at their house, I wasn't going to be over there, doing things I shouldn't be doing, and that was an expectation. And I feel like when we take the idea of purity culture and the idea of having expectations as standard for kids, and we throw that out the window for whatever reason, we're communicating to them, we don't expect anything better from you than this. Clearly, no one would go up to a 4-year-old and say, I'm going to need a 27-page dissertation on the eschatology of Jesus. Because the kid's going to be like,
what were half of those
Twinkies?
words?
Yeah, right. So, because the expectation isn't right. But if I say, I can't even expect you to, sit down and behave, or I can't expect you to not go have sex with your girlfriend, or I cannot expect you not to get high, well, what's that say about them? How much? No intestinal fortitude at all? Nothing to strive for? I feel like that's a very dangerous precedent that, again, anything can be made out to be something awful.
And it's not just the fact. And it's not just the fact that the standards have been lessened. It's not just the fact that the standards kind of aren't there anymore. It's the fact that in the culture and state of the world that we're living in, people are actually encouraging those things.
Yes, right.
I mean,
encouraging new standards.
We have gone far past the basic standard through saying all those things that were viewed once as bad. Well, since Tim's whole generation had to face punishments for those things, that means this whole generation should face almost a reward for doing them.
You know what?
To make up the time, apparently,
right.
or the absence of those
I didn't think of this until you said that, but you're absolutely right. There are standards now. They're just different standards. Mm-hmm. Standards we have now is we're rewarding feelings, we're rewarding worldview, we're rewarding. I mean,
and notice feelings. Yeah. Notice, okay, everyone was once a teenager, and you know what goes on being a teenager. You were all in high school. You understand what goes on. I understand what goes on. As much as
you're trying to forget about it, yeah, I'm still there.
Okay, now feelings when you're in teenage years and in high school are a very dangerous thing. And if all it takes is to say, well, I was feeling I should do this. And we live in a culture where, oh, sure, by all means, you felt you need to do that?
Yeah, our bad. Yeah.
So then that means, we're setting up for disaster.
Yeah.
Just because it's the expectation shouldn't just have been held by parents.
Yeah.
Because it's a societal standard for how we are to act and represent. And now, me saying that, some will, if this gets in the ears of a certain person, will think that I am a Nazi. Will literally think that I am a Nazi because I'm saying it is a very beneficial and good thing for a society to have standards set for its citizens and so forth.
Well, and the whole thing that started this conversation between Parker and I to come to this episode today was an article that was on NBC.com about back in May when the guy went up in Atlanta, went and shot up the nail salon with the Oriental people in it. They linked him to purity culture. I can assure you, as a person who lived during that time, that ain't what we were being taught. If that was being taught, and it wasn't. It's certainly not in my context. I wouldn't even have thought of something like that.
No, because another standard would be, hey, don't go out and
don't
people.
shoot people.
Yeah, okay.
How hard is that? Yeah.
That's another standard.
Really, that was kind of the bargain basement one right there. But I feel like at the end of the day, because this guy espoused some of the slogans of purity culture, suddenly he becomes representative of, well, I can tell you right now, he don't represent me. That guy belongs in a cell with no key, as far as I'm concerned. But I just feel like at the end of the day, to draw that parallel to say having standards is bad. Look, having unrealistic standards is bad, sure. But I think having having standards that make you work to get to them. I'm not talking this everybody in the race gets a trophy thing. I'm talking about the idea that we think that if you want to succeed in life and you want to get ahead in life, you're going to have to make some sacrifices. You're going to have to fight down some of those urges and feelings that you have. And if you don't, you're sacrificing your future for an immediate gratification. And that is wrong exactly 100% of the time. If you lack the ability to delay gratification on anything, then you're nothing more than an accident waiting to happen. That's where you're heading. And I feel like by throwing out any kind of standards or any of that, by canceling all that and saying, well, we can't expect any better from you, well, guess what? You're not going to succeed very far. It's just as simple as that. And I think by our culture just trying to get rid of every standard, we we think that we're making everybody feel better about themselves, but all we're really doing
It's
is
hurting.
yeah.
It's
We're
hurting
saying
everyone.
yeah, you're gonna fail, but that's okay. That we have preordained that conclusion.
I mean, the example that was given of teenagers saying if you felt that way, then it's okay. When you think of it in that sense, you know that something's obviously wrong with where we're going. Okay, like, and if we throw away all the standards and we literally, I mean, it isn't obviously affecting St. Mary's quite yet. Okay, because we kind of have a tight-knit community. We know we do.
Well,
have
we have
s-
community
yeah.
standards still exist here.
It exists
They're
here.
loosening up, but they still
But
exist here.
go anywhere in with, I guess in the larger cities of America where the news is being covered. Standards don't exist there at all.
Well,
And
you can see it on the news, and you see it in
Yeah.
social media. You see pictures of people and some of these celebrities. I mean, we saw a great example at that gala they had last week, where AOC had that slogan posted on her back. You know, those guys.
Don't even get me started.
Yeah, right. We're gonna give Parker a Prozac, and then we're gonna let him talk about that. But the idea is the whole thing is silly because we're celebrating the wrong things, and that is a symptom of having standards that are way out of whack. And so, all right, we're getting a lot of rage in this episode.
Yeah,
I like
I
it.
know.
But at the end of the day, what we want you to take from our conversation is standards are good. Unrealistic standards are unrealistic, therefore bad. But having standards, having expectations for your children, for your parents, for your coworkers, for your employees, for the people working alongside you, for the people in your church, having expectations of them is a good thing because what it says is, I believe you can do this. Gotta try. It may not come naturally, but it's a standard you could get to. And by not having those, you are saying, I think you're a failure. I mean, that's what you're left with. If you aren't willing to have standards for somebody, then you have already written them off as a failure.
And Tim mentioned one thing before we started filming when we were talking about this, is, oh my gosh, it just came out of my mind. But no, if we don't have the standards, then
What was that? If we don't have the standards.
No. Okay, so in his time frame, the standards were there for the kids, and it was expected from the kids. So what is different from the development of a child from 0 to 18 to where we cannot have the same standards from when he was around?
Yeah.
Like, where the standards automatically just become way too hard?
Yeah. Okay,
Like,
yes, what has changed? That's what
Yeah.
we're talking about. What has changed today that my generation, we had, not everybody, but I know I grew up with them. Those standards existed.
A lot of people.
And
It
a
was
lot
a
of people
standard
did in that
society,
time.
yeah.
What has changed about kids today that we used to be able to expect that, but not so much anymore? And I don't know what the answer to that is. But something changed that we're not willing to believe that people and young people can be better. I disagree with that vehemently. I mean, this guy sitting right here is a good example of that.
16-year-olds.
Yeah, that's why I hired Parker to explain the world to me. So, but at the end of the day, you know, if we aren't willing to expect people, have expectations of people, there's no way that they have any incentive to grow. And kids are the most susceptible to that of anybody. So, all right, I'm a little sweaty now even. Have standards. Don't be afraid to have standards for the people you're working with, the people you're living around, the people you're interacting with. Not unrealistic ones, not stupid ones, not ones you wouldn't hold yourself to. But if you go through life with no expectations of anybody, you have pretty much said everybody's a failure. And I'm not so sure that's how it works. So, anything you want to say to wrap up?
I think we got it all.
All right. I need a drink of water. So we're going to cut it off here and have standards and have a good week.